The city of New Geneva was not built on a planet. It floated in darkness, a starless gulf between spiral arms of the galaxy. Its shining metal walls stretched for miles in every direction, holding the lives of millions from 100 species. From the outside, it looked like a silver ring spinning slowly in the void. From within, it was the beating heart of galactic civilization, and today that heart throbbed with fear. In the great council chamber, built like a vast amphitheater, thousands of delegates filled tiered rows. Their voices clashed in a storm of languages, growls, hisses, melodic tones, pulsing lights, even scents. The translation system struggled to keep pace. Fear translated easily enough. It carried in the shaking voices, in the vibrating colors, in the nervous tapping of claw against stone. At the center stood Zethra, prime of the Galactic Cooperative Council. She was tall and slender, with smooth blue-silver skin that glowed faintly beneath the chamber's lights. 4 long arms folded across her chest as she waited. Her eyes, large, multifaceted, capable of seeing colors no human could name, studied the delegates in silence. When she finally raised one arm, the room fell quiet. Every eye turned to her. "Council members," her voice rang out, soft yet amplified to every corner. "We face the greatest threat in our history." The chamber darkened. A holographic map of the galaxy appeared in the air above the floor, glittering with millions of stars. Red lights began spreading from the edges, one after another, consuming the stars like infection. Gasps rippled through the chamber. "They are called the Devourers," Zethra continued. "They appeared from dark space beyond the rim. They do not answer communication. They do not negotiate. They only consume. 17 systems have already fallen. 4 billion intelligent beings are gone." The red stain spread wider. The delegates' voices rose again, some shrill with panic, some heavy with anger. Zethra's eyes glimmered as she lifted both pairs of arms. Silence returned. "We have fought them," she said. 14 battles, 14 defeats. Their ships adapt to our weapons within minutes. Our fastest vessels cannot outrun them. Our strongest shields cannot stop them. Our fleets dissolve like dust before their fire." From the side, a rumbling growl shook the air. The Chromax general, a massive reptilian being with scales like armor plates, bared his fangs. "My people are warriors born," the translator echoed. "We do not know defeat, yet these creatures crush us like insects." Another voice, colors flashing from within a tank of glowing fluid, spoke next. A Zephyrian, shaped like a drifting jellyfish, its body pulsing with complex patterns. "We tried every known channel. No response. No reason, only hunger." The chamber shivered with unease. Dozens of species, each with centuries of history, each proud in their own way, all united now in fear. The hologram flickered, showing red advancing deeper into the core. Zethra's tone grew heavy. "Evacuation fails, defenses crumble. We cannot find allies beyond our borders quickly enough. We are out of time." Her hand swept toward a group at the chamber's edge. Ancient figures robed in white, their skin dull with age. The keepers, historians who preserved the memories of every known species. One stepped forward. His skin was faded blue, his posture bent with centuries. His name was Morton, and his eyes carried the weight of too many lifetimes. "We searched our archives," he said. "Most species capable of war are extinct. Most records are fragments, but there is one." The hologram shifted. A yellow star appeared, its third planet blue and green, veined with white cloud. Whispers rustled through the chamber. The star was Sol. The world was Earth. Morton's voice was solemn. "They are young, unstable. Their history is violence without end, wars that destroyed continents, weapons that could burn their world to ash. They applied for council membership 50 cycles ago. We denied them, too dangerous, too unpredictable." The map zoomed closer. Human soldiers appeared, images drawn from intercepted broadcasts, men and women in battered uniforms, fighting across deserts, forests, ruined cities. Tanks thundered, jets screamed, explosions tore the earth. The aliens in the chamber recoiled at the savagery. "They are called humans," Morton said. "Every record shows the same truth. They thrive on conflict. They are predators of their own kind, but they adapt. They survive, always." A Chromax general growled approval. "Predator against predator, that is the way." The Zephyrian's body flared yellow and red, fear. "If they are so violent, how do we know they will not turn on us?" Zethra stared at the glowing earth, suspended in the chamber's center. Silence stretched until it felt like gravity itself. At last she spoke. "The Devourers cannot be stopped by civilized war. Perhaps only uncivilized war can win. I call for a vote. The chamber erupted. Some shouted in outrage, others in desperate agreement. Hours passed in fiery debate. The red stain on the galactic map pulsed steadily, as if reminding them of time's slow bleed. At last the vote was cast. Narrow, divided, 21 for 20 against. By a single breath of margin, the motion passed. Zethara's voice carried the final words, "Send the message." Half a galaxy away, buried deep under the Colorado Rocky Mountains, General Kate Murphy sat in a steel-walled office. She was 52, scarred from battles across Mars and the asteroid belt. One arm gleamed cybernetic beneath her sleeve. On her desk lay a glowing tablet, its translation lines scrolling. She had read the alien message 4 times already. She still didn't know whether to laugh or curse. "We request military aid against an existential threat. We understand your species has extensive experience with warfare." Kate leaned back, the faint hum of underground generators echoing through the silence. For centuries, humanity had been seen as the galaxy's outcasts. Too dangerous, too cruel. Now the same galaxy was begging them for help. She pressed the intercom. "Get me the President, Priority Alpha." Minutes later, a secure link opened. President Harrison appeared, flanked by generals and cabinet members. His face was pale but steady. "General Murphy, you've read the request." "Yes, sir." Kate's lips curled in a grim smile. "They rejected us for being too violent. Now they want us because of it." The president nodded slowly. "What's your assessment?" Kate stood, walking to the tactical display on her wall. Red spread across the stars, devouring worlds. "Sir, this is the greatest opportunity in human history. Not just survival, not just victory. A chance to show the galaxy what we can do when we stop holding back." The silence on the line stretched. Then the president spoke. "What do you propose?" Kate turned. Her cybernetic hand flexed, metal fingers glinting. "Full mobilization, not just soldiers, everyone who knows war, everyone who's fought and survived when the rules didn't matter. They asked for angels. We'll send them something else." 3 days later, recruitment lines stretched for city blocks. Veterans, rebels, mercenaries, miners, hunters, scarred, hardened, desperate people, men and women who had lived with violence and learned to bend it to their will. Humanity's answer was not clean. It was not polite, but it was fast, overwhelming, and unstoppable. And high above Earth in orbit, a heavy cargo ship was being stripped and reforged into something new. Its name was burned across the hull in black letters, Terra's Wrath. At its bridge stood Commander Jake Sullivan, 41, cybernetically enhanced, undefeated in missions across the solar system. His eyes burned with quiet fire as Earth spun below him. The galaxy had called for salvation. They would get it. But not from angels. From demons. The space station New Geneva was a monument to peace. Its walls were engraved with the promises of 1,000 treaties, its halls decorated with murals of unity between alien races. Now it trembled as ships arrived in wave after wave, carrying not peace but war. The delegates of the Galactic Council gathered in the docking bays to witness the arrival of their unlikely allies. They expected gleaming fleets of disciplined soldiers, crisp uniforms, and formal salutes. Instead, they saw something entirely different. The first human warship to pierce the void was the Terra's Wrath, a cargo vessel reborn into a beast of steel and fire. Its engines roared like thunder. Its hull was bristling with weapons the Council had banned centuries ago, missile pods, railguns, and launch bays for drones armed with explosives. The sight made many aliens recoil. Inside the docking bay, soldiers disembarked in steady streams. They were not the polished warriors of galactic tradition. They were scarred, tattooed, cybernetically altered, their uniforms mismatched and patched. Some carried weapons made of polished steel, others bore guns with glowing plasma cores. Many looked like mercenaries, criminals, or survivors of endless civil wars. The alien observers whispered in horror. "These are not soldiers, these are savages." Commander Jake Sullivan marched at the front, his armored boots echoing on the deck. His cybernetic implants flickered faint light beneath his skin. Beside him walked Captain Lisa Chen, her expression cold and sharp, a rifle slung across her back. She glanced at the alien crowd, her eyes hard with the knowledge that she and her people were being judged. At the receiving line stood Council Prime Zethara, her silver-blue skin shimmering faintly. Her 4 arms folded, hiding her unease. Around her clustered alien delegates, their expressions a mixture of fear and fascination. "Commander Sullivan," Zethra began, her voice carefully neutral. "On behalf of the Council, welcome to New Geneva. We thank you for answering our call." Jake inclined his head slightly. "We're here because you're desperate," he said, voice blunt. "Don't thank us yet." A ripple of discomfort swept through the aliens. They were used to ritual greetings, elaborate ceremonies, polite words. The human's directness was like a blade cutting through silk. One of the insected Chitauri stepped forward, his mandibles clacking. "Your people are rough in appearance. How do we know you can fight an enemy that has crushed all others?" Jake's lips curved in something that was not quite a smile. "Because we've been fighting enemies we should never have beaten our entire history, and we're still here." The Chitauri clicked nervously, retreating. Zethra's large eyes studied Jake with quiet intensity. She sensed the truth in his words, even if it unsettled her. Later in the council chamber, the humans stood at the center as the galactic leaders argued. The hologram of the Devourer Advance glowed red across the stars. Around it, voices clashed like storm waves. "They are unstable," cried a crystalline Xerian, its body chiming in dissonant tones. "They will destroy us as surely as the Devourers." "We cannot trust predators," pulsed a Zephyrian, its colors sharp with fear. The Chromax general growled, his scales glinting. "Sometimes only a predator can kill another predator. Do you prefer extinction?" The chamber erupted again. Delegates shouted, sang, pulsed, clicked. The humans stood silently amid the storm, their expressions calm, almost amused. Jake's gaze drifted across the alien faces until he found one pair of eyes unlike the rest. They belonged to Kersh, a slender being from the planet Valan. His species was known for diplomacy and art, not war. His eyes, large and dark, held sorrow. He met Jake's gaze without fear, and something unspoken passed between them, recognition of outsiders caught in forces larger than themselves. At last, Zethra raised her arms. The chamber fell into uneasy quiet. "Enough, we voted. Humanity is here. We cannot waste more time. Commander Sullivan, how do you propose to fight the Devourers?" All eyes turned. Jake stepped forward, his boots echoing on the polished floor. His voice carried with calm certainty. "You've lost because you play by rules," he said. "Lines of battle, codes of engagement, protecting civilians above victory. You treat war like a game." Gasps of outrage rang through the chamber. Jake ignored them. "The Devourers don't care about your rules. They adapt because they expect you to fight clean, so we won't." He gestured and the hologram changed. Red lights marked the Devourer fleet at the Kepler 442 system. Blue markers showed the human ships, moving not in formation but scattered in wild arcs. Cargo drones packed with explosives, boarding pods aimed at enemy vessels, swarms of fighters diving at impossible angles. "We hit them where they don't expect. We sow chaos. We make them afraid. We fight the way humans have always fought when we're outnumbered." The aliens murmured in shock. The word afraid rippled through them like lightning. The Devourers had never known fear. Could such a thing be forced on them? The Zephyrian pulsed bitter orange. "Your plan is madness. It violates every code of war." Jake's eyes narrowed. "Then maybe your codes are the reason you keep losing." The chamber was silent. For the first time in living memory, none of the delegates had an immediate answer. Later that night, in a quiet observation deck overlooking the stars, Jake stood alone. The black void stretched endless beyond the glass. He wondered if he'd made a mistake, if bringing humanity into this war would damn them in ways even he couldn't predict. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "You speak as if war is a craft you have mastered." Jake turned. It was Kersh, the Valan diplomat. His skin shimmered faint gold beneath the starlight. His gaze was calm but searching. "Not mastered," Jake said. "Survived." Kersh stepped closer, his hands clasped before him. "My people have no warriors. We write songs, build sculptures, weave light into art. Yet I have lost more family in the last year than in all our history. If you can stop the Devourers, I will stand with you." Jake studied him. The alien's frame was delicate, his voice gentle. Yet in his eyes burned the same fire Jake had seen in hardened soldiers, the fire of someone with nothing left to lose. Jake extended a hand. After a moment, Kersh touched it with his slender fingers, a fragile bond forming in the shadows of war. 3 weeks later, the human fleet was ready. 12 ships, bristling with weapons and filled with soldiers unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The aliens watched them depart from New Geneva, their whispers filled with both hope and dread. Commander Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Terra's Wrath, Earth shrinking behind them. Around him, his crew prepared for the jump. Lisa checked her rifle, her expression calm but eager. Danny Rodriguez, demolition expert, grinned as he fine-tuned the drone explosives. Amy Thompson, sniper, polished her scope. Dr. Kevin Park studied alien samples in his lab, preparing to find weaknesses. Kersh stood near Jake, having insisted on joining the mission as a council observer. His eyes flickered between the humans, filled with curiosity and unease. The countdown reached 0, the stars stretched into streaks, the fleet jumped. They arrived at Kepler 442. The system was dead. 3 planets once home to billions now floated as gray husks. Their oceans were gone, their skies stripped, their cities reduced to dust. Hanging in orbit was the Devourer fleet, a swarm of ships grown like tumors, their surfaces pulsing with dark energy. They radiated hunger, a wrongness that made human soldiers feel sick to look at them. On the bridge of the Terra's Wrath, silence fell. Even hardened veterans stared in grim horror. Kersh whispered in his soft voice, "This is what waits for us if you fail." Jake's jaw tightened. "We won't fail." The tactical displays lit up with enemy movements. The Devourer fleet turned as one, like predators sensing prey. Their organic ships shifted formation, preparing to crush the intruders. Lisa's voice was steady. "Orders, Commander." Jake studied the swarm. He thought of Earth. He thought of every human war fought against impossible odds. He thought of the galaxy watching, waiting to see if humanity would be their salvation or their doom. His voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Scatter the fleet, launch the drones." The human ships broke apart, flying not in order, but in chaos, angles and curves that made no tactical sense to the Devourers. Cargo drones shot forward, each carrying explosives powerful enough to crack moons. The Devourers shifted, confused for the first time. Their sensors locked on the largest ships, ignoring the smaller ones. On the Terra's Wrath, alarms screamed. The enemy formation surged, weapons glowing with stolen life energy. Kersh gripped the rail, his eyes wide. "They're coming straight for us." Jake's voice was calm, cold, unyielding. "Let them. They're about to learn what human war looks like." The void lit up like a storm. The first cargo drone slammed into the Devourer line, detonating in a flare brighter than the system's star. The explosion ripped through an organic cruiser, tearing its flesh-like hull into fragments that spun away, leaking glowing ichor into space. Seconds later, the second drone went off. Then the third. A chain of artificial suns erupted across the battlefield. On the bridge of the Terra's Wrath, the deck trembled under shockwaves. Red warning symbols danced across the tactical display. Lieutenant Foster's cybernetic eye gleamed as he tracked the data. 17 hits. Enemy formation disrupted, gaps opening exactly where we wanted them. The Devourers reacted instantly, their ships shifting positions with terrifying speed. They unleashed beams of green energy that seared through the void. A smaller human escort ship was caught, its shields collapsing in seconds. The vessel burst apart, scattering flaming wreckage. 40 souls lost in an instant. Jake Sullivan didn't flinch. His voice was steady. "Boarding teams move, get in close while they're distracted." Across the fleet, smaller human vessels surged forward, weaving through debris and fire. Their trajectories were wild, unpredictable. Galactic tacticians would have called them suicide runs. To humans, they were just opportunities. Captain Lisa Chen crouched inside a cramped boarding pod, her Marines packed shoulder to shoulder. Their armor was patched and scarred, their weapons brutal. Shotguns, rifles, flamethrowers, explosives. Many of the weapons were illegal under galactic law, weapons designed to cause maximum pain, maximum destruction. The pod shook violently as it slammed into the hull of a Devourer ship. Metal shrieked against alien flesh. The Marines braced themselves as plasma torches cut through the walls. With a final blast, the breach opened. The inside of the Devourer vessel was alive. Walls pulsed with a sickly rhythm, veins of dark energy running through them. The air was thick, sweet, cloying. It made the Marines gag inside their helmets. Lisa raised her rifle. "Masks on, don't breathe this crap, move." They poured into the ship, weapons blazing. The Devourers came at them in a rush, twisted creatures with too many limbs, their eyes glowing with hunger. They carried weapons that fired bolts of concentrated life force, searing through walls and armor alike. The first Marine to fall screamed as his chest dissolved into ash. His squad mate hurled a fragmentation grenade down the corridor. The explosion filled the tunnel with steel shards, ripping alien flesh into wet chunks. Lisa's flamethrower roared, setting the organic walls ablaze. The creatures shrieked, their bodies twisting in agony. The Devourers had never faced anything like it. On another vessel, Sergeant Carlos Mendes grinned as he tinkered with a handheld EMP generator. "Come on, you ugly bastards," he muttered. He pressed the trigger. A pulse of blue energy rippled through the ship. The lights dimmed. The walls twitched, spasming like nerves struck by lightning. Whole sections of the alien vessel went dark. Mendes laughed, like frying a bug. His squad surged forward, mowing down stunned Devourers before they could recover. On the Terra's Wrath, Danny Rodriguez was busy too. His drones buzzed across the battlefield, exploding with surgical precision. "Boom, boom, boom," he said under his breath, grinning like a child with fireworks. Entire sections of the Devourer formation collapsed under the relentless detonations. The creatures tried to adapt, but there was nothing to analyze, nothing to counter. Human explosives were pure chaos, pure destruction. Amy Thompson sat at her gunnery station, her sniper scope linked to the ship's cannons. She picked targets with deadly calm. "Left flank, vessel with glowing node, fire now." Railgun rounds screamed through space, punching holes in organic hulls. Each shot was followed by her steady voice. "Next target, fire." Kersh stood at the rear of the bridge, gripping the railing so tightly his fingers bled. His delicate frame shook with horror at the carnage. This is not war. This is slaughter." Jake didn't look at him. "No, this is survival." The battle raged for 6 hours. Explosions lit the system like lightning storms. Boarding pods pierced hulls, spilling Marines into nightmares of flesh and blood. Human soldiers fought with knives, fire, explosives, anything that killed. The Devourers adapted to energy weapons, to plasma, to lasers. But there was no adaptation to raw human unpredictability. A flamethrower here, a knife in the dark there, a bomb hidden in a corpse, chaos upon chaos. The Devourers faltered. At last, the largest ship, a command vessel the size of a city, shuddered under the final drone detonations. Its organic hull cracked open. Fire erupted from within. It died screaming, its voice a psychic howl that made soldiers clutch their heads in pain. Then it fell silent. The Devourer fleet was gone. Not one ship escaped. For the first time since they had appeared, the galaxy's nightmare had been destroyed. Human losses, 3 ships, 47 soldiers. Alien losses in similar battles, entire fleets, entire worlds. In the ruined corridors of a captured vessel, Lisa Chen wiped ash and blood from her armor. Her Marines stood silent among the wreckage. The walls still twitched faintly, but the ship was dying. Then Amy's voice crackled over the comms. "Chen, we've got live ones." Lisa followed her to a chamber filled with pulsating sacs. Inside them, Devourer crew still lived. Some twitched weakly. Others pressed against the membranes with too many hands and eyes. "Take them," Lisa ordered, "alive." The prisoners were dragged to interrogation cells aboard the Terra's Wrath. Their twisted forms writhed in containment fields. Their voices were shrill, incomprehensible, yet Dr. Kevin Park's eyes gleamed as he studied them. "They can adapt to weapons," he murmured, "but not to fear. We're going to teach them something new." Hours later, Jake stood on the bridge, the ruined battlefield spread before him. Wreckage drifted across the void, glowing faintly in the dying light of the star. The humans were exhausted but triumphant. For the first time, the impossible enemy had been beaten. Kersh approached slowly, his eyes wide with disbelief. You destroyed them completely." Jake nodded once, "Told you we would." "But at what cost?" Kersh's voice trembled. "The things you did, the weapons you used, no council species would ever." "That's why they lost." Jake's tone was cold. "You asked for survival, this is the price." Kersh looked away, his delicate hands shaking. "You fight like demons." Jake finally turned to meet his gaze. "Demons get the job done." Later in the interrogation room, Kevin Park watched a captured Devourer writhe under sensory assault. Flickering lights and discordant sounds overwhelmed its nervous system. It screeched, its limbs flailing. Suddenly it spoke, its voice distorted through the translator. "Fear." Kevin froze. The translator repeated the word, "fear." The alien screamed again, the sound raw and primal. Kevin's eyes widened. "They're afraid," he whispered. "They've never felt this before." The news spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, for the first time in years, the advance of the Devourers had been stopped. Not just stopped, crushed. Entire fleets destroyed by humans in hours. Hope sparked across worlds that had nearly given up. On New Geneva, Council Prime Zethra read the reports with trembling hands. Her aide stood pale beside her. They won," one whispered. Zethra's eyes flicked across the details. Suicide attacks, biological agents, weapons banned for millennia, torture of prisoners, civilian casualties dismissed as collateral. Every line of the report chilled her more. "They won," she whispered back, "but they fight like the Devourers themselves." In the depths of the Terra's wrath, Jake walked through the wreckage-stained halls. Marines sat cleaning their weapons, faces hard. Some laughed, telling stories of kills. Others stared into nothing, silent with memories of fire and blood. They had survived, but something in their eyes was darker now. Lisa joined Jake at the observation deck. The ruins of Kepler 442 planets glimmered below, stripped lifeless. She leaned on the railing, her face grim. "Think the Council knows what they just unleashed?" she asked. Jake's expression was cold, unreadable. "They'll find out." And in the darkness between stars, beyond the reach of sensors, something vast stirred. A Devourer fleet larger than any before. Dozens of city-sized ships, hundreds of smaller vessels, a swarm black enough to blot the stars. They had heard the psychic scream of their kin. They had felt, for the first time in their existence, the burning edge of fear. And they were coming. The ruins of still glowed with the afterburn of human weapons when General Kate Murphy arrived. Her ship, the Earth's Hammer, was a massive battleship bristling with cannons, missiles, and technologies Earth had never admitted to possessing. She stepped off the docking ramp onto the scorched surface of the former capital city. The air was thick with ash. The ground radiated heat. Nothing living remained. Her boots crunched through the dust as she entered the command center Jake Sullivan had set up in the skeleton of a ruined building. Screens flickered with tactical data. Maps showed enemy positions. Marines moved with grim efficiency. The smell of charred organic matter clung to everything. Jake stood at the center, his armor blackened with soot, his expression unreadable. He saluted. "General." Kate returned the gesture, her cybernetic arm gleaming. She looked around at the devastation. "Report." Jake's voice was calm, detached. "This was a breeding world. Intelligence suggests 10 million Devourer juveniles. We sterilized the planet. Nuclear strikes, biological agents, and what Rodriguez calls planet crackers. Took 3 days. Nothing survived." Kate's face was stone, but her jaw tightened. "You burned an entire planet." "Yes, ma'am." Lisa Chen entered, still in combat armor streaked with ash and blood. Her rifle hung loose at her side. Her eyes were hard. "If we hadn't, those 10 million would have grown into fleets. Better to end it now." Kate studied her, sensing the bitterness in her tone. Lisa wasn't proud of what they'd done. She wasn't ashamed either. She had simply accepted it. Kate knew that look. She'd seen it on Earth in soldiers who had crossed lines they could never return from. Inside the makeshift lab, Dr. Kevin Park bent over an alien corpse, his gloves slick with black fluid. His instruments whirred as he cut deeper into its twitching tissue. Monitors displayed alien DNA unraveling under human analysis. He looked up as Kate entered. "General," he said, voice calm, clinical. "Progress is significant. Their biology is based on a nervous system spread across their hulls, weak to electromagnetic disruption. Their psychology is even more fragile. Stress, fear, and sensory overload collapse their minds within hours." Kate's eyes flicked to the cages at the far wall. Devourer prisoners writhed inside, their many limbs twitching. Their eyes glowed faintly, but their movements were erratic, broken. The air was filled with their distorted screams. Some didn't speak at all anymore, they just whimpered. "What techniques are you using?" Kate asked, her voice even. "Nothing that would harm a human," Kevin replied. "Sleep deprivation, dissonant sounds, chaotic light patterns, images of human children screaming combined with electromagnetic pulses. Their nervous systems can't handle it." "And the results?" Kevin's face was expressionless. "They break, they give us everything." As if to confirm his words, Colonel Maria Santos strode in, dragging a group of captured Devourer officers. They collapsed at her feet, trembling. These gave us the locations of 17 major fleet bases, she said, and their homeworld. Kate's stomach twisted, though her face didn't show it. The galaxy would call it torture. Kevin and Maria would call it efficiency. Jake and Lisa would call it survival. Later, Kate walked with Jake along the ruined streets. Buildings lay flattened, their bones jutting up like broken teeth. Black dust swirled in the air. Marines patrolled with hard eyes, their armor scarred, their weapons ready. Kate spoke softly, her voice carrying only to Jake. The Council is complaining. Biological weapons, civilian casualties, prisoner treatment. They want us to fight clean. Jake's laugh was harsh, bitter. Clean wars don't exist, not against something like this. They're threatening to withdraw support. Let them. Jake stopped, turning to face her. His eyes burned with quiet fire. We don't need their permission to save them. Kate studied him, seeing the steel beneath the scars. He was becoming something more than a commander. To the soldiers, he was a symbol. To the Council, he was a nightmare. And maybe to the galaxy, he was both. Back on New Geneva, Council Prime Zethra read the latest reports. Her aides trembled as they recited the numbers. Entire fleets of devourers destroyed. Human losses minimal, planets sterilized. Populations wiped out alongside enemy forces. They are saving us, whispered one aide. They are changing us, Zethra said, her large eyes dark with worry. Every world they liberate becomes more like Earth. Violence as law, fear as order. Do we survive as ourselves, or do we survive as something else? In the Vega system, Jake's forces struck again. Another Devourer colony world burned. Marines swept through with flamethrowers and explosives, leaving nothing alive. In the skies above, Rodriguez's planet crackers split the crust of a moon, fire spilling into the void. Lisa Chen led a ground assault into caverns where millions of alien civilians huddled. The soldiers cut them down with cold efficiency. When questioned later, Lisa's voice was flat. They weren't civilians, they were breeders, future soldiers. We didn't have a choice. Kersh, the Valen diplomat, stood among the ashes after the battle. His delicate body trembled, his eyes wide with grief. He turned to Jake. You call this liberation? You are saving us, yes, but you are burning everything we are. You fight like monsters. Jake met his gaze without flinching. Better monsters than corpses. The complaints from the Council grew louder. 17 member species filed formal protests. Accusations filled the chamber. Use of forbidden weapons. Attacks on civilians. Interrogation techniques that violate every law of war. General Kate Murphy addressed them in a secure broadcast. Her face was hard, her voice steady. We will continue to fight according to human doctrine. If you want a different kind of war, fight it yourselves. The chamber erupted in outrage. Some delegates shouted for humanity's expulsion. Others pleaded for patience, pointing to the victories. Zethra sat silent, her eyes heavy with the weight of impossible choices. In the ruins of Vega's capital, Lisa returned to the command tent, her armor coated in soot. She set her rifle on the table. Jake looked up from the tactical maps. You okay? He asked quietly. Lisa's laugh was bitter. Define okay. She poured herself a glass of water, her hands steady but her voice tight. I keep telling myself they're not people, they're monsters, but then I see their eyes when the fire hits them, and I wonder if that's what they see in us. Jake said nothing, he simply nodded. He knew the truth. He carried it in his silence. 6 months into the campaign, human victories piled higher. Entire Devourer fleets crushed. Their homeworld identified, reports spread like wildfire. Everywhere, worlds begged for human protection. Some surrendered authority willingly, others resisted, demanding independence. On Earth, recruitment never slowed. Veterans, criminals, survivors all flocked to the call. The human fleets grew, more ships pouring into the stars. Fortresses sprang up across liberated systems. Human law followed human guns. But with every victory, unease deepened. Aliens whispered in fear. The galaxy had called for angels. Instead, they had been given demons. And then in the darkness, the Devourers struck back. A fleet larger than any before descended on the Vega system. Dozens of city-sized vessels, hundreds of smaller craft. The sky turned black with their mass. Their psychic voices screamed into the minds of every soldier. On the command deck of the Earth's Hammer, alarms wailed. Kate Murphy's face hardened as she read the numbers. They're bringing everything. Jake stood at her side, his jaw set. Lisa tightened her grip on her rifle. Kersh collapsed against the rail, trembling at the psychic roar. Danny Rodriguez whispered, for once without a grin, That's more ships than we've got bullets for." Kate's voice was low, grim. "This is it. Either we break them here, or humanity dies with the rest of the galaxy." The screens glowed crimson as the swarm descended. The battle for survival was about to begin. The Vega system burned. Human warships and devourer behemoths clashed in the black. Explosions flared like miniature suns. Shattered hulls drifted in silence, their flames eaten by the void. The Earth's hammer shuddered with each impact as devourer weapons slammed into her shields. General Kate Murphy stood in the command pit, barking orders. "Redirect power to forward arrays, bring the rail batteries online." Sparks showered from a burning console. Marines carried away the wounded. Her scarred face never wavered. On the Terra's Wrath, Admiral Jake Sullivan commanded the human strike fleet. His voice was steady through the comms. "Phase 2, Rodriguez, launch your packages. Lisa, prepare boarding teams. We hit them hard and we hit them where it hurts." Danny Rodriguez's voice crackled with adrenaline. "Drones away. Let's see if these bastards like fireworks." Cargo drones streaked across the void, weaving like mad hornets. When the first detonated, the Devourer formation rippled in chaos. More explosions followed, tearing black holes into their organic screens. Lisa Chen's voice rang out, cold and sharp. "Boarding pods away. Time to show them what demons look like up close." Inside the council, far from the battle, the Galactic Council chamber on New Geneva echoed with fury. Delegates from 40 species shouted across the hall, their voices clashing in dozens of languages. "They are destroying our laws," cried the crystal being of Zirian, its body vibrating with anger. "They saved Kepler," countered the reptilian Chromax general, his voice a guttural roar. "They will save nothing if they burn the galaxy in the process," shrieked a Zephyrian, its body poolsing frantic colors. Council Prime Zethra raised her arms. Silence rippled reluctantly. Her silver-blue eyes were heavy with exhaustion. "We face annihilation. Humanity fights for all of us, but their methods—" She paused, searching for words. "Their methods threaten the very soul of galactic civilization." An elder delegate from the insectoid Chitauri hissed, mandibles clicking. "Then we must act. We must control them before they replace one horror with another." A murmur spread. "Control them, restrain them, remove them." Zethra felt the weight of it pressing down. Humanity had turned the tide, but fear was stronger than gratitude. Betrayal brews. In secret chambers beneath New Geneva, shadows gathered. Representatives of 17 species sat in a hidden circle. Their voices were hushed, their faces grim. "They kill civilians," one whispered. "They poison worlds," said another. "They torture prisoners until they break." "They win," growled General T.H. Murr of the Chromax, scales rippling. His people admired strength, but even he looked uneasy. But perhaps too well. The Zephyrian ambassador flickered red. "If humans succeed, they will not leave. They will rule." "They already do," muttered a Chitauri envoy. "On every world they liberate. Human law replaces our own. Crime vanishes, yes. Prosperity grows, yes. But so does fear. Every species begins to act more like them." A final voice, cold and sharp, cut through. "Then the answer is clear. We must end them before they end us." In the dim light, an agreement was struck. Not open rebellion, not yet, but sabotage. Lies, division. Humanity would bleed from the inside while it fought the devourers from the outside. War in Vega. Lisa Chen slammed into the side of a devourer dreadnought with her boarding team. The walls inside pulsed with sickly light, alive and wrong. Alien warriors screeched, firing beams of pure life energy. Lisa's rifle barked in reply, bullets tearing through flesh that had never known such violence. "Push forward," she shouted, flamethrowers roaring. Grenades boomed, echoing in the living corridors. Marines carved their way deeper, leaving blackened corpses behind. On the bridge of the Terra's Wrath, Jake listened to the screams over comms, his face carved from stone. Each voice lost was another scar on his soul, yet his orders never faltered. "Hit them where they can't adapt. Chaos is our weapon." The battle raged for hours, then a message came through, urgent, encrypted. Kate Murphy's voice. "Admiral, something's wrong. Council fleets are pulling out. They're abandoning the line." Jake froze. "Repeat that." "They've disengaged. Half the Allied ships are retreating. Orders came direct from New Geneva. They're leaving us here to die. For the first time in years, silence filled the bridge. Every soldier felt the chill. Their supposed allies had betrayed them in the middle of the largest battle of the war. The knife in the back. On New Geneva, Zethra slammed her fists against the council table. You fools, you condemned them. The insectoid Chitauri delegate clicked coldly. No, we condemned ourselves. Humanity is too dangerous. Better they fall with the devourers than rise above us. They are our only hope, Zethra's voice cracked with fury. Do you not understand? Without them we are already dead. The Zephyrian pulsed cold blue. Perhaps death is better than becoming like them. Zethra stared around at the faces, horrified. Fear had curdled into cowardice. Betrayal had taken root. In the fire, back in Vega, the consequences were immediate. With the alien fleets gone, human ships were left outnumbered 10-1. Devourer vessels swarmed like predators tasting blood. Explosions rocked the human lines. Entire cruisers vanished in fire. Danny Rodriguez cursed as his engineering deck shook apart. We're not gonna hold, Jake. We need cover. Lisa's voice cut through the static, calm even in the storm. Then we make our own cover. Her team detonated charges deep inside the Devourer dreadnought, splitting it in half. The shockwave tore a gap in the enemy formation. Human ships surged through, desperate and wild. Jake gripped the railing, his knuckles white. Betrayal burned hotter than fear. They left us, he muttered. Our so-called allies left us to die. Kate's voice returned, grim but unbroken. Then we fight without them. Humanity stands alone. The turning point. Hours passed. Wreckage filled the void. Thousands dead, but the Devourers had not won. Human chaos tactics, desperation, and sheer stubbornness carved impossible victories. Boarding pods turned enemy ships into coffins. Drones tore gaps where none should exist. The Devourers howled in psychic rage. For the first time, their swarm faltered. They had never faced prey that refused to die. But the cost was staggering. Half the human fleet lay in ruins. Entire units were gone. Lisa's voice came through, hoarse but alive. Sector cleared, dreadnought neutralized. Jake closed his eyes for 1 second, then opened them with fire. Good, because this isn't over, not until every last one of them is ash. Aftermath. When the smoke cleared, Vega was still human. Barely. Survivors cheered weakly on ruined decks. The dead floated among shattered hulls. Humanity had stood alone and survived. But the betrayal could not be hidden. Word spread like wildfire across the stars. The Council had abandoned humanity in its darkest hour. Some species wept in shame. Others whispered in approval. On Earth, fury ignited. Recruitment centers overflowed. Civilians demanded vengeance, not just on the Devourers, but on the Council that had stabbed them in the back. Jake sat in the wreckage of the Terra's wrath, staring at the stars. Lisa limped beside him, bloodied but breathing. Rodriguez patched systems with burned hands. Kate's voice echoed across the fleet. They tried to kill us, they failed. Now the galaxy will see the truth. We are not their angels, we are not their demons, we are humanity, and we will not be betrayed again. The great station New Geneva hung in orbit like a silver crown over a blue-green world. It had once been the proud seat of galactic peace, the place where hundreds of species had come together to talk instead of fight. Now it trembled with fear. Alarms howled through its halls, ships scrambled from docking bays, delegates screamed across chambers. On the horizon of space, the shadow of death approached. The largest Devourer fleet ever recorded poured into the system, a storm of black, pulsing ships, their organic hulls dripping with sick energy. They moved with the hunger of predators that had tasted blood. The Council had betrayed humanity at Vega. Now they faced the consequences of standing alone. The Council in panic. Inside the Grand Chamber, chaos reigned. Delegates shouted at each other, their words colliding in fear. We must evacuate the core worlds. No, stand and fight. Send an envoy, perhaps the Devourers will listen. They have never listened. Council Prime Zethra stood at the center, her voice cracking like lightning. Order, order, I say. Her glowing silver-blue skin pulsed with strain. The Devourers are coming here. There is no time for cowardice or excuses. We must prepare to defend this system. The insectoid Chitauri hissed in terror. We cannot win. We doomed ourselves when we abandoned the humans. Zethra's head snapped toward him. Yes, and now you will face the price of your cowardice. Her aides rushed up, whispering frantically. Prime, human fleets are mobilizing. Reports say they are debating whether to come to our aid. The chamber fell silent at those words. The thought chilled every soul. Humanity might not save them, not after Vega, not after betrayal. The human decision. Aboard the Earth's Hammer, General Kate Murphy studied the tactical holo. Red markers flooded across the map, representing devourer ships. They were converging on New Geneva like wolves circling prey. She stood tall, her cybernetic arm resting on the table, her scarred face unreadable. Jake Sullivan entered the war room, his armor still scarred from Vega. Lisa Chen followed, limping slightly but unbowed, her eyes burning with that dangerous, quiet fire. Danny Rodriguez leaned on the wall, his hands wrapped in bandages, still smelling of grease and burnt circuits. Kate's voice was level. The council has called for help. Silence, then Jake laughed bitterly. Help, they left us to die. Half our fleet burned because of them, and now they want us to save them. Lisa's voice was low, dangerous. Maybe we should let the Devourers finish the job. Maybe the galaxy would be better off without cowards who stabbed their saviors in the back. Rodriguez cracked a tired grin, though his voice shook. Would save us a lot of trouble. No more politicians, no more rules, just us and the bugs. Kate studied them, her gaze sharp. And what happens then? The galaxy burns, billions die. We become the only survivors and the only rulers. Do you want to rule an empire of ash? Jake's expression hardened. His silence was answer enough. Kate leaned forward, her voice quiet but heavy. We are not fighting for the council, not anymore. We are fighting for the people who can't fight for themselves, for the farmers on outer colonies, for children on worlds the Devourers haven't reached yet, for life itself. The council betrayed us, yes, but if we abandon them now, we become no better than the monsters we're fighting. Her words hung heavy in the air. The soldiers stared at her. Finally, Jake nodded slowly. Then we do it our way, no mercy, no hesitation, but we fight. The arrival. The Devourer swarm descended on New Geneva like a tidal wave. Their ships blacked out the stars. Their psychic roar slammed into the station, rattling every mind inside. The council fleets formed shaky defensive lines. Their ships fired neat volleys, disciplined, predictable. The Devourers adapted instantly, absorbing the patterns and crushing the front lines like paper. Panic spread through the council chamber. Delegates screamed. Some collapsed. Others demanded surrender. Zethra stood firm, her voice breaking as she shouted into comms, hold your lines. But the lines were breaking. And then the void lit with fire. From the darkness emerged the human fleets, warships scarred from Vega, drones bristling with explosives, boarding pods locked and loaded. The Terra's wrath burst forward, guns blazing. Jake's voice roared through the comms, carried on every channel. This is Admiral Sullivan. Humanity has arrived, and we don't play by your rules. The demons of salvation. The battle turned into chaos the moment humanity entered. Human ships scattered in unpredictable patterns, some diving straight into enemy formations, others vanishing into clouds of debris only to strike from behind. Cargo drones slammed into Devourer vessels and exploded with the force of small suns. Boarding pods crashed into hulls, disgorging Marines with flamethrowers and explosives. Lisa Chen led her strike team through a Devourer battleship, her voice cold and steady as she carved a path of destruction. Danny Rodriguez unleashed his latest invention, EMP mines tuned to the alien nervous systems. When detonated, entire swarms of Devourer fighters spasmed and went limp, drifting dead in space. The galaxy watched in awe and horror. Live feeds carried the images across 1,000 worlds. Humans fought like demons, reckless, brutal, unstoppable. They turned every weapon into a tool, every weakness into a knife. The Council's disciplined fleets had failed. Humanity's chaos was winning. The turning tide. On the bridge of the Earth's Hammer, Kate stood tall, her voice calm over the roar of battle. Push them back. Drive them from this system. Show them what it means to face humanity. Her scarred face was lit by explosions on the holomap. For a moment, she looked almost like the war itself, merciless, unyielding. Jake's fleet cut deep into the swarm, splitting it apart. Lisa's Marines destroyed ship after ship from the inside. Rodriguez laughed through bloodied lips as his jury-rigged weapons crippled vessels that should have been untouchable. The Devourers howled. For the second time they knew fear. And yet the swarm did not break. Not fully. The largest vessel loomed at the center, a black monstrosity the size of a continent. Its surface pulsed with veins of dark energy, its psychic presence overwhelming. "It's their command ship," Lisa breathed, her voice tight. "Bigger than anything we've seen." Jake's eyes narrowed. "Then that's where we end this." The betrayer's hand. Just as the humans prepared their assault, a new signal crackled through the comms. It was Council Prime Zethara, her voice trembling. "Human fleet, disengage. You are ordered to fall back and allow Council forces to retake command of the battle." The words froze every human on the line. Lisa swore. Rodriguez spat blood. Jake's hands clenched into fists. Kate's voice cut through, cold as steel. "They're trying to leash us, even now, even after everything." Jake's voice was a low growl. "They'd rather lose than admit they need us." Then another voice cut in, one that made Kate's blood run cold. It was the Chitauri delegate, speaking on an open channel. "To all species of the Council, the humans must not be allowed to seize this war for themselves. Fire on their ships if they refuse to obey." For a heartbeat silence, then shockwaves of betrayal. Lisa's face twisted in fury. "They're turning their guns on us." On the tactical hollow, Council ships began reorienting. Some hesitated, horrified. Others, bound by orders and fear, swung their cannons toward the human fleet. The stars over New Geneva burned with fire. Human ships fought devourer monstrosities in a storm of chaos and death. Explosions lit the void like lightning storms, casting broken hulls and drifting corpses into the black. But now, unbelievably, another danger loomed. Council fleets, their banners still glowing with the symbols of unity, had begun to turn their guns toward the very humans who were keeping the system alive. On the bridge of the Terra's Wrath, Admiral Jake Sullivan stood at the command rail, fists clenched, eyes locked on the tactical hollow. Red markers for Devourers, blue for Council fleets, green for human ships, and now, horribly, some of the blue icons pivoted, targeting green. Lisa Chen slammed her fist against a console. "Unbelievable. We're bleeding for them and they want to stab us again." Danny Rodriguez spat into a rag, his bandaged hands trembling with fury. "We should light 'em up right now. Show 'em what happens when you bite the hand that saves you." General Kate Murphy's voice came calm and cold over the fleet-wide channel. "Hold fire. Not yet. Humanity doesn't start wars with allies, even rotten ones. We finish them." Her words held the crew steady, though rage still burned hot. The Council's choice. In the Grand Chamber of New Geneva, Council Prime Zethara stood before a sea of terrified delegates. Behind her, holofeeds displayed the chaos outside, devourer ships tearing through defenses, human fleets holding the line, Council vessels hesitating between betrayal and loyalty. The insectoid Chitauri delegate shrieked, mandibles clacking. "The humans will enslave us all if we let them win." A Zephyrian pulsed frantic red. "But they are winning. Without them, we are already dead." Zethara raised her 4 arms, her glowing skin trembling. "Enough! You fear the humans because they are different, because they fight in ways we cannot. But fear does not change the truth. Without them, there will be no galaxy left to argue over." Her words silenced the chamber, yet she saw the doubt lingering in too many eyes. Even now, they did not know whether they feared the Devourers more or the humans saving them. Humanity unleashed. In space, the command ship of the Devourer fleet loomed like a black continent, veins of dark energy pulsing across its surface. Its psychic roar shook every mind within reach, a wave of hunger and hate. Jake's voice cut through the storm. "That's our target. We end them here or the galaxy ends with us." Lisa Chen's Marines prepped for boarding, flamethrowers and rifles gleaming under harsh red lights. Her voice was steady. "My team's ready. Whatever's inside that thing, we'll burn it out." Rodriguez grinned through bloodied lips, hauling up a jury-rigged bomb the size of a man. "Got a little something special. Call it a nervous system killer. Should fry the whole beast from the inside out. Just gotta get close enough." Kate's voice overrode all channels. "This is humanity's judgment day. We fight not for the Council, not for politics. We fight for life itself. Give them hell." And the humans did. Into the maw. The Terra's Wrath dove straight at the Devourer command ship, weaving through swarms of organic fighters. Explosions flared all around. Hull plating peeled away under enemy fire, but the ship did not slow. Boarding pods launched like spears. Lisa's team smashed into the black hull, cutting their way inside. The walls pulsed with sickly light, veins twitching under their boots. The air was thick with a sweet, choking stench. "Stay sharp," Lisa muttered, rifle raised. Shadows moved in the corridors, twisted shapes of living nightmares. The Devourers came screaming, claws and beams tearing the air. The Marines answered with fire and steel. Grenades turned corridors into furnaces, bullets ripped through flesh. Flamethrowers painted the walls with burning alien ichor. Rodriguez lugged his bomb deeper, muttering curses between breaths. Come on, just a little further." The turning point. Outside, Jake led the human fleet in a maneuver no Galactic officer would dare. "Split into fragments," he ordered. "Scatter, confuse them, make 'em chase ghosts." Ships broke formation, diving in unpredictable arcs. Devourer weapons hesitated, unable to track the chaos. Drones exploded in sudden bursts, tearing gaps in the swarm. Council fleets watched in shock. Their rigid lines crumbled against the enemy, but humanity's madness was working. On the Grand Chamber floor, Zethra saw it too. She turned to the delegates, her voice fierce. "Look at them. They fight like demons, yes, but demons who bleed, demons who die, demons who refuse to surrender. That is what salvation looks like." Still, many looked away, ashamed. Some even whispered of turning their guns on the humans when it was over. Fire in the heart. Inside the command ship, Lisa's team reached the central core, a pulsating chamber of dark energy. Tendrils of flesh connected to glowing nodules that throbbed like hearts. The psychic roar was deafening here, clawing at their minds. Rodriguez set the bomb at the base of the largest node, sweat pouring down his face. "This'll cook their whole nervous system, but we need to hold this spot until it's primed." The Devourers came in waves, endless and shrieking. Marines fought tooth and nail, flamethrowers turning the chamber into hellfire. Lisa cut down enemies with cold precision, her armor smoking from acid burns. "Hold," she screamed. "Just hold." Rodriguez grinned through blood. 30 seconds. The sacrifice. On the bridge of the Earth's Hammer, Kate watched the countdown from Rodriguez's suit cam. Her scarred face was pale, but her eyes never wavered. Then alarms blared. Devourer reinforcements closed in on the human fleet. They were pulling away from the Council ships, focusing everything on the humans. Jake's voice came calm. "They know who the real threat is." Kate nodded grimly. "Then let's prove them right." The Earth's Hammer turned straight into the heart of the swarm, guns blazing, shields overloading. Kate stood tall at the command rail as the ship tore a path for the boarding team. "Full power to engines," she ordered. "Ram if we have to." The crew stared at her, stunned, but no one disobeyed. Judgment. Back in the alien core, Rodriguez slammed his palm on the detonator. "Time up. Let's fry these bastards." The bomb unleashed a surge of electromagnetic energy tuned to the Devourer's nervous system. The chamber convulsed. Walls shuddered. Tendrils writhed in agony. The psychic roar turned into a scream of fear. Across the system, Devourer ships spasmed. Fighters crashed. Dreadnoughts twitched and fell still. The entire swarm convulsed in shared pain. Lisa grabbed Rodriguez as the chamber collapsed around them. "Fall back, move." The Marines fled through burning corridors as the command ship writhed and cracked. Explosions tore through its massive body. Outside, every human ship saw the impossible, the Devourer swarm breaking, not retreating, not regrouping, dying. The command ship detonated in a blast of black and white fire. The Devourers were gone. Aftermath. Silence fell over the stars, shattered ships drifted, flames flickered out, the swarm was destroyed, humanity had won. But at what cost? The Earth's Hammer was gone, Kate Murphy with it. Dozens of human ships lay broken, thousands dead. On New Geneva, delegates wept in relief and fear, for the Devourers were no more, but humanity remained. Zethra stood before the chamber, her voice shaking with the weight of history. "The humans saved us. Again, they fight like demons, yes, but perhaps it is better to live with demons than die with angels." The chamber was silent. None could argue. A new order. Weeks later, the galaxy began to rebuild. Human fleets patrolled liberated systems. Worlds once enslaved by the Devourers now flew banners of human protection. Crime fell, prosperity rose, fear lingered. In orbit above a scarred world, Jake Sullivan stood at the window of the Terra's wrath. Lisa Chen stood beside him, her arm in a sling, eyes hard but alive. Rodriguez leaned on the rail, bandages fresh, grin crooked. Jake's voice was low. We saved them, but they'll never see us as angels. Lisa's laugh was bitter. Good, angels don't win wars, demons do. Rodriguez smirked. Then here's to being the galaxy's favorite monsters. Jake stared into the stars, his jaw tight. We're not monsters, we're human, and the galaxy will learn what that means. On New Geneva, Council Prime Zethara wrote in her private chamber. The galaxy called for salvation. The humans answered. They fought with fire, with fury, with methods that horrified us, and they triumphed. Now the Devourers are gone, but humanity remains. The question before us is simple. Did we invite our saviors or our conquerors? Her pen paused. She looked to the stars beyond the window, where human ships patrolled in silent formation. Perhaps they are both. Perhaps salvation was always meant to wear the face of demons. She set the pen down.